In 2025, EU safety audits found detectable levels of lead and mercury in two of Britain's most trusted toothpaste brands. Brands dentists recommend, brands sitting on your bathroom shelf right now. But squeeze the wrong tube and what you're really brushing with is heavy metals, endocrine disruptors, and EU-banned colourants disguised as minty freshness and a dentist-approved smile. If your go-to toothpaste has been the same brand for 10, 20, 30 years, everything we found has been entering your bloodstream through your gums that entire time. In today's video, we're exposing 13 toothpaste brands that failed on ingredient safety, including the #1 bestseller in Britain and the brand dentists prescribe for sensitivity. We'll also reveal the two brands that passed every single test, so don't switch off before you find out what they are. Coming in at number 13, Blanex, the sleek Italian tube, the promise of Arctic lichen whitening your teeth naturally, without harsh bleach. The premium price tag that makes you feel like you're treating your mouth to something sophisticated. Blanex looks like the smarter choice. It isn't. Independent dental reviews have flagged Blanex for its high relative dentin abrasivity score. That's the official measure of how aggressively a toothpaste grinds against your tooth surface every single time you brush. Blanex doesn't whiten safely. It sands your enamel down until what's underneath looks lighter. That's not whitening, that's destruction dressed up as cosmetics. And despite marketing itself as a premium alternative to mainstream brands, the formula still contains sodium lauryl sulfate, the same cheap foaming agent found in industrial degreasers and budget shower gels. The ingredient they're supposed to be better than. Squeeze it onto your brush. That thick, slightly gritty paste feels clinical, almost medical. It isn't medical, it's abrasion you can physically feel working, and that feeling you interpret as effectiveness is your enamel disappearing with every stroke. Enamel doesn't regenerate. Once it's gone permanently. There is no reversing it. For anyone already dealing with thinning enamel or receding gum lines, or for people on medications that cause dry mouth and leave teeth more exposed and vulnerable, that level of abrasion accelerates erosion and exposes sensitive root surfaces directly to bacteria and temperature changes. The result is painful dentine hypersensitivity, increased cavity risk, and expensive restorative dental work that could have been avoided entirely. Premium Italian packaging. Budget-level science. Your enamel pays the real price. You'd think spending more would at least get you safer ingredients. Not even close. At number 12, Beverly Hills Formula, the Hollywood glamour, the perfect white promise printed in gold lettering across the box, a staple in Boots and Superdrug for decades, and a brand that trades entirely on the fantasy that American sell. Dentistry equals American smiles. Open the cap. That sharp synthetic mint hits you immediately. Too clean, almost chemical, because it is chemical. Several Beverly Hills Formula whitening variants contain sodium lauryl sulfate, aggressive silica abrasives that score high on the RDA index, and titanium dioxide. That last ingredient is the one that matters most. In 2022, the European Union banned titanium dioxide in food products. The reason was genotoxicity. The EU's Food Safety Authority conducted extensive research and concluded it could damage genetic material when ingested. They didn't say it might. They said it could, and they banned it. In your bread, banned. In your sweets, banned. In your toothpaste, perfectly legal. Twice a day, every day, rubbed directly against the soft tissue of your mouth, the most absorbent mucous membrane in your entire body. The aggressive silica abrasives compound the problem significantly. They score high enough on the abrasivity index to physically strip weakened enamel with every single brushstroke. For anyone whose enamel has already thinned with age, or for people managing gum recession where root surfaces are newly exposed and unprotected, that combination creates escalating sensitivity and accelerated decay that no whitening result can justify. Hollywood glamour on the label. An EU-banned colorant inside the tube. You're paying for a fantasy that damages your teeth while it lies to your face. If the premium brands can't be trusted, surely the medical ones are safer, right? Wrong. Number 11 is a brand people don't just choose. They depend on it. Biotine. Specifically marketed to people suffering with dry mouth, one of the most common oral conditions in the over 50 population. Blood pressure medications cause it. Antidepressants cause it. Antihistamines cause it. Millions of Brits live with a mouth so parched that eating, beaking, and sleeping become daily battles. Biotine promises relief. It positions itself as the compassionate solution, the one brand that truly understands your particular condition when all the others simply don't. Then you read the ingredient list. Biotine's formula contains methylparaben. The Danish Consumer Council's Think Chemicals initiative has specifically flagged methylparaben as a suspected endocrine disruptor. Endocrine disruptors interfere with your hormonal system, the system that regulates everything from thyroid function to metabolism to reproductive health to how your body processes other medications. In 2015, Biotine was included in a GlaxoSmithKline precautionary recall alongside Sensodyne after complaints about possible foreign fragments found in the product. Physical fragments, in a paste you put inside your mouth and rub against your gums twice a day. Think carefully about who uses Biotine. People already on multiple medications. People whose doctors have carefully calibrated specific dosages to manage blood pressure, mood, or allergic responses. Using a product containing endocrine-disrupting preservatives twice daily may actively interfere with the very hormonal systems those prescriptions are trying to regulate. The brand that claims to help your condition may quietly be undermining your entire treatment plan without you or your doctor knowing. Compassionate marketing, questionable chemistry. That brand has been on shelves for decades. The next one has been lying to you even longer. Number 10. Pearl Drops. If you grew up in Britain in the 80s or 90s, you remember the adverts. Pearl Drops was the whitening toothpaste, the one your mum kept in the bathroom cabinet, the one that made you feel like dental care could actually be glamorous. That warm nostalgia is exactly what they're counting on. Because while you remember the promise, the formula has been quietly punishing your teeth for decades. Several Pearl Drops variants have some of the highest abrasivity ratings among UK high street toothpastes, higher than Blan-X, higher than Beverly Hills Formula. Among the most aggressive you can buy without a prescription. The formula includes SLS alongside synthetic whitening agents that deliver mostly cosmetic, surface-level results that vanish within hours. The whitening isn't real, it's a temporary optical trick that wears off while the enamel damage stays permanent. Unscrew the cap. That pearlescent paste looks expensive and luxurious, like something that belongs in a jewelry box rather than a bathroom cabinet. Run your tongue across your teeth after brushing. That glassy smoothness isn't cleanliness, it's enamel that's been polished thinner with every single use. For anyone who's been loyal to Pearl Drops since the 1980s, that's potentially 4 decades of twice-daily enamel erosion that cannot be reversed. Exposed dentine, heightened sensitivity to hot and cold, increased cavity risk on root surfaces that were never meant to be exposed to the open air, 40 years of trust, 40 years of irreversible wear. And the brilliant smile they promised you is now more fragile than it has ever been. A lot of people switched to a more natural brand thinking they were avoiding exactly this. They weren't. At number 9, Arm & Hammer, the baking soda brand, the natural alternative. The one health-conscious shoppers reach for in Tesco and Sainsbury's because baking soda feels wholesome, feels old-fashioned, feels like something your grandmother would approve of. That comforting feeling is manufactured. Despite the natural image, many Arm & Hammer toothpastes contain SLS, the same industrial foaming agent they're supposed to be the alternative to, the ingredient that says natural on the front of the box and synthetic on the back. The baking soda's alkalinity, combined with peroxide-based whitening agents, creates an abrasive formula that dental professionals have openly criticized for overstating its whitening claims relative to clinical evidence. You're not getting natural. You're getting marketing wrapped around a nostalgic ingredient. Squeeze the tube, that slightly gritty, salty paste. The rough texture that feels like it's doing real work on your teeth. It is doing work. It's grinding against enamel that's already compromised by decades of daily use and age-related thinning. But here's what most people miss entirely. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. That means high sodium content. For anyone managing hypertension or following a low-sodium diet on strict medical advice, rubbing a high-sodium compound against the most absorbent tissue in your body twice a day is a concern most doctors never think to mention. Your GP, adjust your salt intake carefully. Your cardiologist monitors your sodium levels, and your toothpaste quietly adds it all back through your gums every morning and every night. Natural on the label, SLS and hidden sodium inside the tube. This next one has a loyal fan base that swears by it. What the ingredient list actually shows is a different story entirely. Number 8. Euthymol, a British institution dating back to 1898. That distinctive pink paste, that medicinal taste that burns just enough to feel like it's working. Euthymol has a devoted following among older consumers who grew up watching their parents use it, who associate that sharp antiseptic bite with real, proper oral care. Brand loyalty built across generations over more than a century of bathroom cabinets. And in that entire century, one critical ingredient never made it into the formula: fluoride. Euthymol contains no fluoride, none whatsoever. The single most evidence-based cavity prevention ingredient in all of dental science, supported by over 70 years of rigorous clinical research, and Euthymol simply leaves it out completely. Instead, what you do get is SLS, titanium dioxide, the colourant the EU banned in food over genotoxicity concerns, artificial colours red 33 and yellow 6, carrageenan and sodium saccharin. That famous pink colour isn't heritage, it's synthetic dye. That medicinal taste isn't antiseptic power. It's flavouring carefully designed to trick your senses into believing the paste is doing far more than it actually does. For anyone with gum recession, where vulnerable root surfaces are exposed to bacteria and acid for the first time in their lives, going without fluoride protection is a serious and significant cavity risk. Root surfaces don't have enamel. They're softer. They decay faster. They need fluoride most of all, and Euthymol gives them absolutely nothing. A century of heritage. 0 milligrams of the one ingredient that actually protects your teeth. They gave you pink dye instead of protection. Check your bathroom cabinet. Seriously, the next brand is in almost every British household. Number 7. Maclean's, a household name since the 1930s. The brand British grandparents remember from television adverts when television itself was still a novelty. Maclean's feels like part of the family. Trusted without question for almost a century because questioning it never occurred to anyone. The standard Maclean's formulas contain SLS and sodium saccharin. Its parent company Haleon has been consistently rated poorly by Ethical Consumer for environmental and ethical practices, while offering no meaningful advantages over cheaper store brand alternatives. But here's the real problem. Nobody talks about openly. SLS, sodium lauryl sulfate, has been clinically linked to a significant increase in recurrent aphthous ulcers. Mouth ulcers, those painful, burning, open sores that appear on the inside of your cheeks, along your tongue, across your gums. Clinical studies published in peer-reviewed journals found that switching away from SLS toothpaste reduced ulcer frequency dramatically in affected patients. The cause was in the tube the entire time. Mouth ulcers become more common with age, they become more common with stress, they become more frequent with the immune changes that accompany long-term medication use. And every morning and every night, Maclean's aggravates the very condition that makes brushing painful in the first place. Picture it. You wince brushing over an ulcer. You brush less thoroughly because it hurts. Your gum health declines because you can't clean properly around the sore. The SLS triggers another ulcer before the first one heals. The cycle repeats, month after month, year after year, and you never once suspect your toothpaste is the cause because Maclean's has been in your family since before the war. 90 years of trust, 90 years of ulcers nobody traced back to the tube. The next brand claims to be a medical treatment. What it actually does to your teeth over time is something else entirely. Number 6. Corsadil, the one your dentist mentions when they see bleeding gums. The clinical-looking tube that feels like a prescription even though you buy it right off the shelf at Boots. Corsadil's positioning is brilliant and deliberate. It sits in the gap between medicine and everyday toothpaste, and most people treat it as if it were doctor's orders. Its active ingredient, chlorhexidine digluconate, is genuinely effective at reducing oral bacteria in the short term. No argument there. The science supports it for brief, targeted use. The problem is what happens when people use it long term. And they do. They use it for months, years, sometimes decades, because their dentist said bleeding gums once in a checkup, and they never stopped reaching for the Corsadil tube. Chlorhexidine is thoroughly well documented to cause brown staining of teeth, altered taste sensation that makes food taste metallic or wrong, and significantly increased tartar buildup with prolonged daily use. The manufacturer itself, on its own packaging, advises against long-term daily use. Read that again slowly. The company that manufactures Corsadel tells you not to use it every day, yet it sits on the shelf next to everyday toothpastes in everyday packaging, bought by everyday people who use it every single day. Look in the mirror after 6 months of daily Corsadel. That brown discoloration creeping along your gum line, that persistent metallic taste that refuses to leave. Those aren't signs of healing. They're side effects disguised as treatment. And the heavy tartar accumulation actually accelerates the periodontal disease you thought you were treating. The cure making the disease worse, that's not medicine. That's a marketing strategy with a clinical label. See the pattern? Premium brands grind your enamel. Medical brands stain your teeth. Heritage brands skip fluoride entirely. So where does that leave the everyday family favorites? Let's find out. If this is helping you rethink what's in your bathroom cabinet, hit subscribe. It's free and it means you'll never miss these investigations. Number 5 is one most families never think to question. Aquafresh, the iconic triple stripe. Red, white and blue, on British shelves since 1973, a brand so cheerful, so colourful and so familiar that questioning it feels almost unpatriotic. That deep familiarity is exactly what they're counting on. Because while you trust the stripes, the ingredient list tells a completely different story. Multiple Aquafresh variants contain SLS, sodium saccharin and titanium dioxide, the same colorant the European Union banned in food products in 2022 because of findings from the European Food Safety Authority, which concluded that titanium dioxide nanoparticles raise serious genotoxicity concerns, meaning potential damage to your genetic material at a cellular level. Banned in your biscuits. Banned in your children's sweets, still perfectly legal in your toothpaste, applied twice a day, pressed against the thinnest, most permeable soft tissue in your entire body. The Danish Consumer Council's independent chemical screening program ranked Aquafresh products among those containing environmentally harmful or potentially concerning substances. This isn't a fringe activist group, it's a government-backed consumer protection authority with laboratory resources behind every assessment. For anyone brushing twice daily across decades of brand loyalty, that's thousands upon thousands of individual exposures to titanium dioxide nanoparticles absorbed directly through oral mucosa, combined with SLS, triggered mucosal inflammation on tissue that becomes increasingly vulnerable and thin with age. Those cheerful stripes you've trusted since childhood. 50 years of brushing with an EU-banned colorant and nobody told you. Nobody thought you needed to know. Think you've been making the smart choice by paying more for the big professional brands. Wait until you see what professional endorsement really means. At number 4, Oral-B, one of the top-selling toothpaste brands in the United Kingdom. The name itself carries the implicit authority of dental professional endorsement. When you're sud. Dentist's waiting room has Oral-B posters on the wall. When the hygienist hands you an Oral-B sample after your cleaning, you don't question what's inside the tube. Why would you? The professionals trust it. You should trust it, except you shouldn't. The majority of Oral-B toothpaste sold in the UK contain SLS, not some variants, not a few specialty lines, the overwhelming majority. Only the Densify Decay Control variant is SLS-free, one single product out of an entire range that dominates shelf space in every supermarket in Britain. And Oral-B's parent company, Procter & Gamble, has been repeatedly criticised by ethical consumer groups for ongoing animal testing practices and poor environmental transparency scores. The brand that looks clinical isn't clinically superior to its competitors. It's commercially dominant. Those are fundamentally different things, and most consumers never realize it. For the significant proportion of older adults dealing with dry mouth caused by daily medications, recurrent mouth ulcers, or general oral mucosal sensitivity, SLS is clinically shown to worsen symptoms and delay the healing process. Yet the brand that dentists prominently display in their own surgeries puts SLS in almost everything it sells to patients. Professional endorsement on the wall, consumer betrayal in the tube. Dentists recommend the brand name, nobody reads the ingredient label underneath. That was bad. But the next brand on this list, will shock you, because it's the one millions of Brits use specifically because they believe it's protecting their most sensitive teeth. The number one spot goes to a brand now facing a class action lawsuit in the United States over what independent labs found hiding inside the tube. And it is almost certainly sitting in your bathroom right now. Number 3, Sensodyne, Britain's number one toothpaste for sensitive teeth. The brand dentists explicitly recommend when you mention age-related sensitivity, if you're over 50 and your teeth ache when you drink cold water or bite into ice cream, there's a very good chance Sensodyne is what you were told to buy. It might be the worst dental advice you ever followed. In 2015, GlaxoSmithKline issued a recall of certain Sensodyne Repair and Protect and Sensodyne Complete lots over possible wood fragment contamination. Wood fragments in toothpaste, in the product you put inside your mouth and press against the most delicate tissue in your body twice every single day. But the 2015 recall looks almost minor compared to what came next. In 2025, an independent laboratory study found that Sensodyne Extra Whitening tested positive for detectable levels of heavy metals, lead, and mercury in the toothpaste specifically designed for your most sensitive, most vulnerable, most damaged teeth. The World Health Organization states clearly that lead exposure in adults causes hypertension and kidney damage. Mercury exposure is linked directly to neurological decline. These are precisely the conditions that adults over 50 already face at heightened risk due to aging. And now the toothpaste they depend on twice daily, every single day, for years and decades of loyal use, may be quietly adding to that burden one brushstroke at a time through the most absorbent tissue in the body. Your dentist said, trust Sensodyne. The lab results say, think again, recommended by professionals, contaminated by heavy metals. Drop a comment if Sensodyne is in your bathroom cabinet right now. Let's see how many of us have been trusting this brand with our health. That's 3 of the biggest names in British dental care exposed. 3 brands you've probably bought this year. It gets worse. Number 2, Colgate Max White, the whitening promise from the most recognized name in dental care anywhere in the world, visibly whiter teeth. That's the pledge printed on every single box. Millions of Brits buy it because the Colgate name alone feels like a cast iron guarantee. 4, decades of relentless advertising have made absolutely sure of that. But the formula behind the promise tells a very different story. Colgate Max White variants contain SLS, PEG compounds and hydrogen peroxide. PEG compounds can be contaminated with 1,4-dioxane, a manufacturing byproduct classified as a probable human carcinogen by international health authorities. Not a deliberate ingredient. A contamination byproduct that shouldn't be there but frequently is in products containing PEG. The hydrogen peroxide concentrations have been questioned by dental professionals as being too weak to deliver any real lasting whitening results, yet strong enough to irritate already sensitive oral tissue. Too weak to actually work. Strong enough to cause damage. That's the formula you're paying premium prices for. Squeeze it out onto your brush, that bright white paste with tiny blue microbeads. It looks scientific. It looks technologically advanced. Brush with it and feel that sharp tingling. Sensation. That isn't whitening happening, it's irritation. Your gums aren't getting cleaner or brighter, they're getting inflamed. For anyone already managing gum sensitivity, or for people dealing with medication-induced dry mouth where oral tissue is already compromised and thin, the combination of peroxide and SLS on aging oral mucosa can trigger persistent inflammation and painful ulceration. And the false promise of whiter teeth may delay professional dental care for underlying problems like hidden decay or advancing gum disease that worsen rapidly in older adults without proper treatment. Whiter teeth on the box. Inflamed gums inside your mouth. The regulators knew about all of this. They also knew about the number one brand on this list. And what the lab results from 2025 uncovered should have changed everything. Number 1, Colgate Total, Britain's single best-selling toothpaste. A bathroom fixture for over 25 years, the gold standard of British oral care. The one recommended by more dentists than any other brand on the market. The tube that more British families reach for every morning and every night than anything else on the shelf. And in 2025, independent third-party laboratory testing found that Colgate Total Whitening tested positive for elevated levels of lead and mercury, not trace amounts, elevated levels. That finding triggered a class action lawsuit in the United States alleging the company knowingly failed to disclose heavy metal contamination to the consumers who trusted them most. But the heavy metal contamination isn't even the oldest betrayal hiding in this tube. The original Colgate Total formula contained triclosan, an antibacterial agent linked by peer-reviewed research to endocrine disruption, antibiotic resistance, and thyroid hormone interference. Triclosan was only reformulated out of Colgate Total in 2019, after years of mounting scientific pressure and public concern. That means anyone who brushed with Colgate Total before 2019 was absorbing an endocrine disruptor through their gums twice daily for however many years they remained loyal to the brand. Think about that timeline carefully. Decades of daily triclosan exposure followed immediately by ongoing heavy metal contamination. For anyone who has been using Colgate Total since the 90s, or for people currently managing blood pressure, kidney function, or cardiovascular health, the cumulative risk profile now includes the very conditions they're already fighting against. 25 years of trust, 25 years of exposure, a class action lawsuit now in progress, and it's still sitting on every shelf in every supermarket in this country. What brand is in your bathroom cabinet right now? Drop a comment and let us know. Let's see how many of us need to make a change today. 13 brands, 13 failures, but don't throw out your toothbrush just yet. 2 brands prove it's still possible to brush clean. Kingfisher Natural Toothpaste. Made in Britain since 1989 using a minimal, transparent ingredient list that reads like it was written by someone who actually cares about what goes into your mouth. No SLS, no artificial sweeteners, no artificial colors, no titanium dioxide, no parabens, no triclosan. Just fennel, peppermint, and mint oils in a formula that does exactly what it says on the tube and nothing it doesn't. Ethical Consumer rates Kingfisher as a Best Buy, their highest recommendation. The brand uses recyclable HDPE tubes. Both its fluoride and fluoride-free ranges contain naturally derived ingredients with no hidden chemical additives lurking behind vague label terminology. Open the cap and the difference hits you immediately. That clean herbal scent, no synthetic mint salt, no chemical sharpness, just real plant oils doing real work. Brush with it and your mouth feels genuinely clean afterwards. Not stripped, not tingling from chemical irritation. Clean the way clean is supposed to feel, the SLS-free. Formula is gentle on sensitive oral tissues and won't aggravate dry mouth or trigger the recurrent ulcers that McLean's and Oral-B make worse. The fluoride variants provide proper cavity protection for vulnerable exposed root surfaces, the protection that Euthamol skips entirely despite charging you for the privilege. And here's what makes it almost absurd. Kingfisher costs £2.99 to £3.50 per tube. That is cheaper than Sensodyne, cheaper than Corsadil, cheaper than most of the 13 brands we just exposed. Less money for cleaner ingredients, honest labeling, and a formula that doesn't require a chemistry degree to trust. Green People Fennel and Propolis Toothpaste. A British organic brand that formulates entirely without SLS, parabens, artificial flavours, triclosan, or titanium dioxide. Instead of synthetic chemicals, Green People uses organic botanical ingredients and propolis, a natural antibacterial compound produced by bees that has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years across cultures worldwide. The brand holds Soil Association Cosmos Organic certification. That's not a logo anyone can purchase or a badge any marketing team can invent. It's independently verified compliance with strict audited ingredient purity standards that require full traceability. Ethical Consumer consistently ranks Green People among the highest scoring toothpaste brands in the entire United Kingdom. Squeeze it onto your brush. The paste is subtle and earthy, nothing whatsoever like the aggressive synthetic mint blast of the mainstream brands. That's because the flavor comes from real fennel and real botanical extracts, not a laboratory approximation designed to mask cheap ingredients. The propolis and myrrh in the formula provide natural antibacterial and anti-inflammatory support for aging gums without any of chlorhexadine's notorious staining side effects. No brown discoloration, no metallic taste, no tartar acceleration, just plant-based care that works with your body instead of quietly working against it. The SLS-free base avoids aggravating medication-induced dry mouth entirely. The organic certification provides genuine assurance that the ingredient list contains exactly what it says and nothing it hides. No heavy metals, no endocrine disrupting preservatives, no untested chemical additives. What Corsadil promises and fails to deliver safely, Green People achieves quietly, honestly, and without a single synthetic shortcut. 13 brands exposed, and most people still don't know. Subscribe now, and if you're watching on TV, tap your remote so you never get blindsided again.